Hi, Chris Salt again with Music Wizard Group, and I wanted to make a post here about one side that I really am excited about of our work and our method is really the early education. Uh, one, I studied linguistics and music, as I've said before, and in linguistics, one of the courses that I studied was developmental linguistics, which, if any of you have children, is just fascinating. A man named Piaget talked about this first, but you've seen your kids learn language and how they connect the dots and stuff, and so that's developmental linguistics, and they talk about that language acquisition process where you acquire language almost, it's like we're ingrown. We have this native ability to learn the language. Every kid in every country and every weird language in the world, including English, one of the weirdest, learns fluently by the time they're 5 or 6 to speak and hear and then of course they develop and continue to develop, maybe all their lives. What was interesting to me was just how massively the brain grows and develops in those early days. There's a window they talk about of development from 2 to say 7, where you acquire your native language. And if you can learn a second language at that time, there may be some language confusion, but you will actually come out at 7 with kind of bilingual, fluent in both languages with twice the vocabulary of other kids. And in fact, in my own home, my wife's from Brazil, and we speak Portuguese with our kids, and I've seen that process. But what kind of intrigued me is, was there a way that we could reach these kids with music that young? Right? And that was kind of really a strong impetus of what this came about. And my belief is that Mozart learned music as if it was a native language. His father was an expert musician, and there was something about the way he taught him that Mozart picked it up and became fluent in it. You think about Mozart writing minuets at 5. My son could write, words at 5, sentences, but I didn't think he was a genius. I thought he was bright, but, not, oh my God. And then, at 7 or 8, he can write paragraphs, and, Mozart could write symphonies, right? And then you look at when he's, 10 or 12, he can hear a piece of music and then play it back. My son can watch, a movie and then recite verbatim what those characters said, in the funny parts. He can, cite this very long story or joke. He's fluent in the language, and Mozart was fluent in music. So that kind of is the real interesting part here. Now, there's other approaches. For example, the Suzuki method in particular. I met Mr. Suzuki before he died in Japan, and he said something he's probably said to everywhere, and it's probably in his books, but he said, you don't make a plant grow by pulling up on its leaves. You nurture it, you give it, fertilizer, sunlight, water, and it blossoms. That was his philosophy, but he also was very much about taking natural learning process, in particular, in his case, modeling. So they have the mother, or the father, learn to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars on this little violin, and only when the child asks for it do they let them play. And then they kind of pass that mentorship on to, a teacher, a violin teacher, and so. But the initial impulse is to be like mom, be like dad. I want to do that. They did that, and I want to do that. There's a great saying: kids will do nothing you say and everything you do. Right? So it makes you be a better person. If you really want your kids to behave, you kind of got to, the first thing I had to learn was to stop swearing. But the point is that this modeling for Suzuki, very effective, and yet it still followed kind of a Japanese approach to learning. Their language system is so complex. They use Chinese characters, their own, they use Roman letters, and they learn by rote. So they just repeat, 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 repeat. And the Suzuki method kind of takes that kind of learning method that the Japanese do with their writing into the music, and they master one, character, and then they go to the next, and they master that character. That approach has been very effective because the Japanese are a very disciplined and focused culture, but it's also, they've got to have that other part where it breathes, right? And, sort of like calligraphy, if you just, have to learn it correctly, or you really learn to master the art of calligraphy, there's that nuance there. The point is that that was great for learning to play a piece of music, just rote memory. But learning to read music, especially on the piano with Suzuki, they've had troubles, right? This is a breakdown. There's a gap between how the kids learned by watching and then got to the notation when, with the melody, it's you can follow contours, but with the piano, it's, you know, melody, harmony, and rhythm all at once. So there's this kind of gap. What I'm getting to is that our approach really is great at literacy at a very young age. So you've seen your baby can read type of programs where the kids are, you know, recognizing things at 6 months old. What we're finding is that children's brains are incredibly capable of absorbing massive amounts of information if it's presented in a kind of concrete and interactive and playful way. They love to please, right? And so what you can do with this, if you can get the kids young, even very, you know, toddlers, younger, 6 months old, I've seen, you just get them on the piano and put it in free play mode and have them bang, and the game objects come up from the bottom or come from the side, and they're seeing that kind of interactivity between the colors and the sounds, and they're just enjoying themselves. But as soon as they know how to play, or know their colors rather, 2, sometimes 3 years old, you know, development, you know, shifts differently with different kids. Get them on the game and play with them, and they are. We have 2 and 3-year-olds playing Beethoven in minutes, and they have no idea that this is supposed to be hard. They're seeing the mind of Bach in living color at this age, and they're absorbing this just naturally. And our goal, really, what I would like to see is, you know, part of the legacy of this system and what's coming, is that we hopefully can turn out a generation of Mozarts where kids look at music as just one of those natural skills, like walking or riding a bike or talking. It's, of course, I play, right? And I read, you know, everyone reads. 110 years ago in this country, most of the country did not know how to read. We passed the Universal Education Act, and every kid had to go to school, and now we don't know people who don't know how to read, or if we do, oh my God, what a pity, that, what a barrier to, you know. My goal really is that in 100 years, through our system and others that will evolve from this kind of approach, that music is a universal thing, but early education, if we can get these kids engaged and learning and playing at that very young age, we know that their brains grow new memory cells from a study in Canada, in Ottawa. We know that 30–40% jumps in math. We know that they're going to have better SAT scores later on. They're going to have better social skills because they're collaborating, they're playing together. We know that music is going to be a dimension of their mind, their heart, and their soul that's going to be profound and a gift for them far, far beyond just the sheer joy of playing. So my invitation to you is to really think about introducing this far younger than you might think. One of the beauties of this system is that the kids don't need to be literate, don't need to know their alphabet, don't need to know symbols, they don't need to know anything. They just need to know their colors. And the ability to anticipate, to see it, it's hand-eye coordination. You're going to be stunned at how the kids progress. And I urge you to plant these seeds as young as possible. It's never too late to have a happy childhood, as Tom Robbins says, but if we can get this gift of music into their hands at a young age, I think you're going to see just, you know, profound advantages for the rest of their lives, because their minds are going to be parallel processing right from the beginning. And in this day and age, with all the changes coming at us, we need these kids thinking on a highest level and in a compassionate and sharing and cooperative level for the good of our planet. I really feel that music, if we get it in these kids at a young age, can instill almost a vibrational change in the way we think and look and work and play with each other. So my invitation is, you know, experiment with this. Share your studies with us. Share your experiments. Give us that feedback of what's going on. What can we do better? How can we make this a better game? What things are you doing that really work? What do they like? What don't they like? And, you know, let's get busy and co-create a new world where music's a birthright. And I just can't wait to see what happens. Thanks so much. Please, again, tell us your stories. Comment. this is our lifeblood here. This blog was really created because we need to learn as much as we want to share. And so, thank you again.